Hey everybody, Escape211 here, and this one is gonna be a doozy. I got a lot to cover because I am on the test server, and you can probably tell by looking at my hanger and my insane value for my hanger strength of 15K. I have the rarity and update changes here, all right? So there's just so much to cover on this. And I'm going to try to do my best. I have different thoughts of things that I want to kind of like go down and talk about. So hopefully I can get through all of it. You know, mostly talking, a little ranty too, because I got to say, even though I love the idea of what they're trying to do here, I think in theory, the idea of this kind of rarity upgrade change is really good, especially when they talked about giving us a month's worth of the implant discount. Also very good, all that kind of stuff. But the idea is better than the execution, in my opinion, and that's what's disappointing. It feels like pilots all over to me again, all right? When pilots were first mentioned, I was willing to play ball. I liked the idea of it, but I thought the percentage values of what they did and the overall implants were just way too far. They did way too much and just vastly changed the game for certain things that I'm still not liking, all right? But have just kind of lived with. But this is worse to me, all right, if that can be said. And a lot of things about this are just tough, man. But probably the easiest way to start this is to kind of just go over a broad scope of the changes. And for that, I got this document that Gangsta Jabs created, man, and I gotta say, the dude has done the Lord's work here, okay? They did actually provide us a basic, like, rundown of, like, the general percentages of stuff they've changed, which I'll kind of address here, but he does a great job of really breaking down, like, you know, nitty-gritty all the changes. And I'm going to leave a read-only version or view-only version of the document below, as well as a link to his channel. If you guys have not seen his channel, I very highly recommend it. He does awesome stats, awesome like type of comparisons, everything. Very good at breaking down this stuff. Much better at it than me, in my opinion. And, you know, really good resource there. So huge thanks to him for letting me use this in this video. But I want to just kind of simply go over the main change of what they did because they kind of did it broadly and simply, which sounds good in theory, but I think it's just a little too general without being too creative, in my opinion, all right? So I'm looking at the document over here, and the first one that I want to look at here is the main change where they're talking about the change for mechs. This is just the mechs that we're talking about right now, and the main change they focused on here was HP, all right? That's really it. They did do a little bit of changing, you'll see, to their abilities over here, and then some additional change notes, and I'll address those a little bit, but mostly you can see that overall, so when we're looking at just the mechs and the HP value that they focused on, the common mechs got nothing. They were unchanged. The uncommon mechs got a 19% boost in their HP value, and Juggernaut is now, he's the one here, he's labeled here as uncommon, or as common, but he will be uncommon, which is why he got the HP bump, all right? And you'll see that, again, their ability change in a similar way to this. But when we look at this HP value, the uncommons got a 19% bump. The rares got a 41% bump. The only one different here that he bolded, again, awesome for Jabs to do that, was Stalker. Probably because he already got a buff before, so maybe they gave him a lesser bump to kind of bring him in line with everyone else's stats for rare. I don't know, but kind of a bummer because a lot of people use Stalker, so he gets a lesser bump than the rest of the rares, all right? But, you know, if we move down further, the Epics got a crazy 68% buff to their HP, which is nuts. And then when you get into the Legendaries, even more, right? 100% for all of them. Redox got the highest one, 138%. You know, for those kind of bumps. And you'll see that in their abilities, there's a little bit of nuance to it as well. For some of these, right, you get, you know, that 19% change for these abilities. You know, MD, for whatever reason, got no change to his ability. Even though HP values went up, he got 0 change, which is crazy to the amount of healing he does. Arachnos, instead of getting 41%, got 37. Again, I don't know why. Arachnos already stunk, so why make his ability worse, or worse in terms of, it's better, but worse in terms of the amount that he got buffed. They did change the stun for Zephyr as well as for Surge. right? They have a lesser stun now, which in some ways is good, especially as we look at the weapons later. You'll see that damage output is way higher, so it makes sense that their stun should be less. You know, I guess evens out some play there. And that Cheetah now is 24 energy instead of being a light mech, which in one way is good, but now when we look at the light mech category, there's really none that are good, in my opinion, based on the percentage value change here. Because if you look at how this changes over time, like, you're gonna pretty much just be focusing on epics and legendaries, right? Because of the level of HP bump and damage bump to their abilities that they got. Like, just, you know, just based on that alone, you've kind of made everything else above that, or below that, I guess I should say, garbage tier, right? I mean, obviously, Paragon and Lancer are going to be awful in that sense. The uncommons are going to be pretty darn bad. Rares are going to be bad by comparison to the epics and the legendaries, which, you know, is really unfortunate to see. But that's just kind of how it goes. Now, that's just the mechs, all right? Let's look at the weapons, okay? Because this even gets more insane, in my opinion. And Gangster Jab, again, doing the Lord's work, talking about the difference with pilots for all these different things that have been changed. But the overall change by itself, before we look at pilots and implants, just this change is just the bump up, all right? Even the commons got a 50% buff, you know, to their damage, which is, in theory, is nice, but like, that means it already got more of a buff as a common than all the common, uncommon, and rare mechs, all right? And this just goes up from here, and you're going to see how damage, again, is just supreme in this game, all right? The uncommons got 78%. Long arms got lesser, probably because it got buffed before, although Shotgun 8 did too, and it still has a pretty, you know, pretty good buff up. So Shotgun 8s will probably fall, because it got a buff before, I'm guessing if it'll fall more into like rare epic in terms of its overall like damage ability, which is pretty good. So I think Shotgun 8s may actually survive some in the meta in that sense. Your rares got 112. Not bad. Your epics though then got 152. Which is crazy. And again, if you look at how this goes when you start adding pilots, we're already at 300%. When you get into the pilots and their innate skills to add to this, you know, you're just compounding the issue of damage. 304% damage when you add pilots into this is just insane. Same kind of stuff going on for the legendaries. Of course, that's going to be insane. Already a 200% is the general basis. And then you have certain ones, you know, the EMs get a little bit less, but because they have their double damage chance and like how they function, they're still going to dominate the battlefield. And when, again, we look at the percentage value of what it actually does for damage, it's already higher than the HP of any mech. All right, you can still one-shot that. It is crazy to me how this all goes. Like, it's just nuts. All right, so that covers the basis of all that stuff. But here's the issue. All right, first of all, the way this stuff was changed, to me, it's just not great. It's just not creative. It's just saying, let's give all the mechs more HP and let's give all the weapons more damage, tweak a couple minor things. I thought there was going to be more nuance in terms of like how they actually change different mechs, just like how they changed Cheetah and Surge before. They did a lot to like, you know, reconstruct those mechs. I was hoping for more of that, like seeing, you know, instead of just seeing huge number bumps, I would have liked to have seen lesser number bumps, like, again, 5 to 10 to 15% difference, and then, like, certain mechs, certain weapons that needed it, give it more attention, you know, give it more, like, I don't know, speed, or, like, how its ability functions, or how, you know, certain, you know, the perks of the weapons go. I mean, none of that. Instead, we just get these flat bumps that, again, is just perpetuating more of this gap between like either certain players or certain mechs and items. And that's really difficult. And again, we'll go back into the stat sheet just for a second, because if we go back to our mechs, I wanted to also point out how, like, they already said this, but it's still just discouraging and frustrating. If I look at the HP here of Juggernaut, who's going to be an uncommon tank, he's a tank, he has less HP than Surge, who is a scout, all right? Surge will have 20k more HP, all right? I know he's legendary, but this seems to not take class into account at all. So again, we're not even focusing on the nuance of class. We're just saying rarity is all that matters, and let's just focus on everything based on rarity. It just feels very short-sighted, too simple, and like, you know, you're taking strategy elements out, especially with certain people that learn how to play with certain mechs really good. I know certain people who could play like with, you know, Lancer really well, and they're probably going to have a much more difficult time to do anything with Lancer because of how all this is set up now. It's really frustrating, but I don't know. I just don't like that element of it. I also worry, I mean, because there's going to be plenty of people now who are going to have things like Stalker, Tengu, Guardian, you know, who may even be using Lancer or Paragon or Juggernaut. I know plenty who use those. Juggernaut is still one that a lot of people will use endgame. Probably not now. I mean, what's going to happen, though, for these people that just basically have garbage tier stuff in their hangar now, and they're just going to have to figure it out after they've invested all of this time and money into these items? I highly doubt there's going to be compensation for this, because I don't know how realistically they could compensate for this. This isn't like second copies when we just had a obvious, like, oh, you have these, you know, few dual mechs, we'll just give you this flat amount of compensation. It's going to be harder to do that with the nuance of like how much people have upgraded with certain items and things, and what items they've upgraded. So I don't see compensation being easy for them to do or realistic, but it just means that people are going to have to do a lot of adjusting in their hangar, and that usually means a lot of time and money, and that's very frustrating. I also think from what I have played, I played some different matches at lower level and then at higher levels with the hangar that I had set up in this image, but rarity seems like it's going to be affecting matchmaking more. And in some cases that's good, because if somebody was to buy something legendary or something early and would just use that to just stomp on people, it's going to be much harder for them to do because they're going to get you know, matched up with higher level people, higher level bots. But let's be honest, people have so much in their hangar that's all over the place in terms of what the rarity is, okay? How is matchmaking going to effectively look at that, you know? I just worry that we're going to have more bad matches and more just bot matches because they can't effectively match things properly. I don't like that. I mean, I could be entirely wrong. Maybe that's going to help relax the matchmaking system, and we're going to be matched with a lot more people. And if that's the case, I'm all for that. If it really does affect it in that way. But I think going the other way is going to be far more obvious, or it's going to be far more realistic. Based on all the tweaks they have done to matchmaking, and it's still been pretty crappy for most people, I just think this is going to make it harder for matchmaking to do anything. And what's worse is I almost hate saying this, but I think because rarity is going to become a factor in matchmaking for people, people are going to figure out how to exploit it. And I don't really want to talk about that more because people have already been doing that enough lately, but I think that could very well be the case. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. A couple other things I want to talk about. Achievements are gonna be bad, right? There's gonna just be bad achievements. I mean, like a lot of people talk about the kill shot one here where it's knife in the back. It's already a hard achievement to do, but now you have to do it with this common weapon that is going to be pretty much garbage tier based on the other weapons you use. So good luck finishing it, right? I mean, there's too many weapon-specific things that you have to do in here that I think are going to make it very difficult. Especially, I mean, maybe you just really like Paragon, you really wanted his skin. That's going to be even harder for you to do because he's common and he got no HP bump. He basically got nothing from this rarity change. So I think that's going to be a tough one for achievement hunters to swallow. Now, they did say it is something they want to look at in the future, so hopefully that happens, but it's not a priority to them right now, which I understand. They have to focus on this and all this balance stuff, but it just makes me wonder how long it's going to be before they even touch achievements. But until then, they're going to suck. They're just going to suck. And speaking of other things that suck, at least for the time being, the progress path, all right? We still have the old progress path we've had for the entirety of this game, right? And that means you are limited to whatever is on the progress path. And that means that all of these certain things that are going to be either meta or awesome to you, you're not going to have access to. Now, there are going to be some things, like I have Redox right here, who is going to be a lot better based on the stat bump that he got. He's one of the highest stat bumps that we got in legendaries. In terms of his functionality, I don't know if he's going to be functionally a ton better, but we'll have to see. I actually think he could show up a lot more in meta, and that would be good. But that means that now you have to buy Redox, and you have to utilize this mech. And it may not even be a mech that you are like dying to get. I mean, out of what's out there in terms of like the legendaries, I still think people are going to say like, I have to have Surge, I have to have Bastion. Like, these are going to be great ones. I do think Gatecrasher, with the way his stats are shaking out, is going to be a pretty solid one. I do think that, you know, those may be more favorable than like Redox or Brickhouse, even though those are legendaries that you can get. So again, it just means that until you're able to get the stuff that you want, are you going to have good options in this progress path? You're going to be limited. And again, when we talk about weapons, you're not going to be able to get the EMs. I mean, aside from maybe the EM6, if you got that early, that's going to actually be a good weapon now. It's not going to be amazing, but it's still going to be really good considering it's only 6 energy because of the boost in damage that it got and how, you know, little the HP, again, got boosted. It'll actually be a decent weapon. So, you know, you'll have access to some tools, but you're still going to have to rely on, like, either a specific A-coin crate rush or spending money until the progress path comes along. Because to my understanding with this rarity change, the rarity change is happening now, progress path is going to happen later. It sounded like it's still months down the road, at least. I have no idea. I can't even give a timeline to it, but because it's not happening now when this is happening, that's going to be very difficult for certain people to just be limited to the certain things that they have available to them, all right? Yeah, not the greatest. I really don't like that. And the point to me for all this was to give everything the correct value, all right? And all you're really doing is just making epic and legendary awesome, and everything else is far worse. It makes the scaling super obvious, which in some ways is nice for a new player, but it also means that we're going to end up with practically cookie cutter hangers at the end when all is said and done, because everybody's going to be chasing the exact same stuff. Now, of course, we've already had meta stuff that everybody chases, but at least in that regard, like, meta has the chance or the ability to change around. If we're just purely looking at stats now and saying, these are the best stats, get these things that just are legendary because they're awesome, because they're legendary, you're just chasing rarity and that mostly, or that alone, I would say, which I don't really like. And this game does not have enough variety at all these different stages to make it feel like we're not going to be cookie cutter. All right. We already experienced some of that when pilots came along, because once you see someone's pilot, you already know what kind of build to expect from them, and you already know that people aren't going to be running mixed builds most of the time. They may in interim when they're building their hangar, but not like for like when you have your ideal hangar. It's mostly dual run stuff. It's made everything a little too straightforward, obvious, and not as creative in the overall builds that players are able to do, just because you want to optimize your builds based around pilots. And you're going to see even more of that, in my opinion, just based on how the epics and legendary stuff shakes out. The thing that probably bugs me the most about all this is it felt like they were hitting a ceiling in terms of what they could come out with realistically to make people buy stuff, right? So now they have created this artificial element of epics and legendaries are the best, and all your stuff that was trash or is going to be trash, which is rare or lower, they're going to come up with a new version of it. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what they're doing, but we've already seen it, right? We had the Javs, and now we have the Helix. We had Ares, we have Sentinel, we have Slingshot, and we have Killshot, Puma, Panther. This is the new thing, like, in my opinion, and what they're going to do. All they're going to do is come out with the epic or legendary version of the thing you already had, that's just going to be better because it's just better based on its rarity. It's just not creative. It's just not, like, ideal, and it's just a bummer. I really don't like how this all was executed. Again, the idea of this was great in theory, and the potential for it was really good, but I think the execution of it is poor. And that's probably enough for me to talk about in this. And I feel bad because all I've been doing is just sitting in my hangar talking, but it's, you know, difficult, I think, for me to just show all the footage or show like matches. of what I've been playing so far while I'm talking about it. Maybe I'll throw some in, we'll see. But, you know, I'm saying this without knowing if I'm going to throw it in. But as far as when these changes are going to drop, based on when I'm making this, I'm going to, you know, I'm making this on the 11th, the night before the 12th, when I can bring it to all of you. I've only been, you know, able to look at this for like 2 days. So I haven't had a ton of time to look at it, honestly, for me personally. But the changes for this, I assume, are going to be coming soon. You know, when they are letting us actually talk about it and there's no embargo for it, it usually means it's on the way. I know that they said mid-March, and I think they're trying to keep to mid-March. So if that is the case, I'm guessing this is going to be happening next week, like this change. So it's coming along pretty soon. So you guys are going to be able to see it and experience it. I'm hoping that I'm wrong on certain things. I'm hoping matchmaking is going to be better. I'm hoping that, you know, some things are still going to be able to be viable that I think are just already trash. But I don't really know, because, you know, I only can test this against bots, which is not really great, versus against real players and all that kind of stuff. So it limits my potential to test it thoroughly in the way I would want to. But, you know, I hope that, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about some of this stuff and it actually ends up being better. But I really don't like this change. It really is a bummer. Like I said, it feels like Pilots 2.0, and I don't like it. I also know, based on the way this is going, some people have already talked about how this is similar to what War Robots had done before, and they also didn't like that. So, again, going through the same kind of process here, it's just not fun. It's just not fun. So, I don't know. We'll see. You guys can let me know your thoughts. Do you think this overall sounds like a good change? Are you excited to see what this actually brings? Or do you feel like this is crappy? I don't want you to just follow what I say, because I'm just telling my opinion and based on my experience so far. But based on what you've heard and what you've seen of everything, I just want you guys to, you know, tell me what you think. If you're excited about it, that's cool too. I hope that you are, but I'm just telling you how I personally feel about it. Gotta be honest, not liking it so far, but we will see. And feel free to comment below. And like I said before, thanks to Gangster Jabs for letting me use his data sheets. I will link that below. I will link his channel below. Definitely go check it out. But otherwise, we'll see you out there on the battlefield.